How do you know? It's so weird. Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about building stuff, Bitcoin, my weight loss journey, the situation with my nose, and a few other things. So let's get into it. What up YouTube, my friends, family, partners in crime? It's Saturday morning. Second day of a 4-day weekend. Am I looking more svelte? I'm in a large t-shirt now. No more XLs. Looking buff, looking fit. You know it, baby. Anyway, welcome to Saturday morning. Got a lot going on this 4-day weekend. But first, coffee. Coffee is numero uno. Haven't even combed my goatee yet. Just come down. Well, actually, no. Coffee's numero dos. Numero uno is peeing. Just go outside, pee on the land. And then I come in and make coffee. Give Stanley some treats. And then enjoy my coffee. And then we'll get into the video content. All right. I sat on a wet chair. Now my ass is damp. But anyway, it's a beautiful Saturday morning here at All Mine Ranch. The sun is up. The moon is still up. Had a beautiful blue moon the other day. I'll add in a picture or two of that. Today's the 3rd of September, I think. It's a 4-day weekend for me. I took off Friday and Monday, of course. Let's move this. Monday, of course, is Labor Day. So I tried to be really productive yesterday. We did get some rain. It was really nice. It was overcast all day and in the 70s, like mid 70s all day. Then we got a little rain, but man, it was nice. There was a little bit of breeze and the temperature was just, it felt like fall, which was awesome. I didn't get as much done as I thought because I was about to build a prototype solar rack. I'd gone to Home Depot last week, got a bunch of lumber. And I made progress. I did build the frame of the photon conversion chamber, the solar closet that I'm going to be building for the main house. But I thought I was going to pause on that and end up building a prototype solar rack. But as I started thinking through the intricacies in the computational analysis of the build, I realized that I needed to design, I'm not saying this very well, that I needed to figure some things out first on how I'm designing my big, massive solar rack before I can do my prototype. So I ended up spending a good chunk of yesterday just sitting in a chair, staring at it and sketching and figuring out how angles come together. In fact, this solar rack build and the solar closet that's going to be hiding underneath it, I would say is probably the most complicated thing I've ever attempted to build. Not from a methodology perspective, because it is just, wood. It's just like my garage board. It's a sloped, leaning roof, essentially, using solar panels as the actual roof. They'll drop in. So it's just, deck screws and wood and a drill and all the usual stuff. But it's complex in that I'm attaching it to 2 different buildings, and it's got to cover a solar closet that also has its own roof, and I needed to make sure that the height and the angle of the roof of that solar closet is appropriate, that then the bigger, higher roof that's going to cover all that goes over top of it. And because I'll be paneling in the whole thing to keep wind from getting in under my solar panels, I've got to make sure all my faces line up, and I don't want things to be off by an inch or 2. And so it's just and there's a section of the roof with a solar panel that's going to span between the 2 halves of the solar rack that are attached to 2 different buildings. So I'm kind of building a bridge. Once I take you over there and show you what I'm talking about, it'll start to make a little bit more sense. Come on, flies. Leave me alone. But bottom line is I really needed to sit down and think through a whole bunch of things and stare it through and take notes. And I think it all came together. So it took me a number of hours of just deep thought yesterday. And now I've got a shopping list. I don't really have budget this week. I don't get paid. Stanley's trying to chomp a fly. It's kind of his hobby. When we're outside and flies start messing with him, he tries to chomp them. He never gets them. Well, occasionally he gets them. If they're elderly flies and slow. Anyway, so I don't really have budget for lumber this week. I will next week, but if I buy ahead of time, I'm spending money a week or two before I actually have it, which means I'm using credit. And I already ran my damn Amazon credit card up to about $9,000 between the big battery and things for the ATV and a bunch of solar gear and wiring and lumber and everything. Oh, the metal for the workshop roof, all the lumber and insulation for the workshop. I basically went into debt to build the workshop. That balance went from 9,000, I'm down to 7, but I'd really like to get it to 0. So that means going forward for about the next 6 months, I can't go into debt to buy building materials. I have to do it with cash. So I do have some cash savings that I keep on hand here on site. At any given time, I keep, $500 to $700 in cash on hand, just in case the grid goes down. I think I'll use $200 of that and go to Home Depot this morning. And hello, birds. Birds are starting to come out and feed at the feeder. Ooh, and I'm itchy. I think I got mosquito bit yesterday. Sitting outside doing all my thinking and pondering of my calculations for the workshop, for the solar rack. Anyway, I'm going to use some cash. I'm going to go to Home Depot. I've got a shopping list. So that's, although it's Saturday and once a month they block off the lumber aisle and let the little kitties do their birdhouse projects. I don't know why on one of the busiest days of the week when everybody needs to go to Home Depot and do lumber, they hold a kids build workshop right in the lumber aisle. Why not choose the freaking ceiling fan aisle or something like that? I don't quite get it. So that might be going on, hopefully not. But I've got a shopping list. I've got to buy some OSB. I've got to buy a whole bunch of 2x4s, bags of cement because I've got more holes to dig for the footings of the solar rack. But I think I can spend about $200, and then I've got a budget of $300 next week when payday hits. I'll go back to Home Depot and buy a whole bunch more 2x4s and lumber. I think the rack overall is probably about $1,000 investment, but it'll be worth it because, again, it is a solar rack that's going to provide power for my main house. And I'm going to do it in multiple sections, actually, so that I can separate out the power. I think I'm going to have panels and an inverter and wiring dedicated to just my air conditioning system. And then I'll have panels and a separate inverter and wiring dedicated to everything else in the house. For reasons I won't go into, but as I've discovered living in the tiny house and having an undersized air conditioner, I think it's good to sort of separate out the air conditioner, which is the biggest power draw, from everything else and have batteries dedicated to that so you can draw down your AC without drawing down your house power and vice versa, and just treat them as two separate things. Now I might rig up some switches so that I can cut over and rely on other batteries instead of the main ones, if they get low, and connect them in a way, but psychologically anyway, I think I'm going to have 2 inverters, and I'm going to approach the whole thing to keep those 2 power systems separate. It's all going into the same room, the same photon conversion chamber anyway, but it does mean I'll end up probably buying 2 inverters, and yeah, there's some complexities there. But none of that matters when it comes to really building the solar racks. It only matters when I drop the solar panels into the solar rack and then wire them up. Then it matters. My neighbors to the north, they're having a little family reunion this weekend, so they were running around on motorcycles and quads. 2 big RVs pulling trailers full of quads showed up yesterday. And I don't know how many acres he has up there, 40 acres, but I think they've built themselves like a dirt track to run the quads and the motorcycles around on. So they were brapping it up yesterday. Brap, brap, brap. Just for you, B. So I'm just going to enjoy my coffee, relax for a little bit, and then go to Home Depot. But I'm going to take the camera and we're going to walk around the corner. I'm going to show you my little makeshift solar rack thing, and I'm going to talk you through some of the angles and plans, and it will make no sense until you see some of the lines that are starting to come together, and then maybe it'll make a little bit of sense. So before I forget, please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I would love to get to 4,000 subscribers. I think I'm just over 3,500, almost 3,600 at this point. I'd love to get to 4,000, then to 5,000, then to 100,000, but you know, baby steps, right? It's only been, what, since 2009, so 14 years of having this YouTube channel. But anyway, like, share, subscribe, comment, ask questions. I love to get questions. Yeah, all that. I also did some landscaping yesterday. I decided, since it was cool and good weather for working outside, the sun, you know, wasn't out, I decided to do some trail work. And man, it's amazing how much an hour of trail work can kick your butt. And doing that first thing in the day is probably not the smartest idea, because my ear itches, because it wears me out physically. It's basically swinging a pickaxe. You know, you think, oh, gardening, landscaping, pruning and whatnot, but no, it's pretty much swinging a pickaxe and ripping bushes out of the ground and then raking rocks and then hauling the bushes. I pulled out about 4 gorilla cart loads worth of brush, and I'm trying to widen the trail. Anywhere it's narrow enough so that I can't get my ATV through the trail. That means not only is it too narrow for the ATV, that means it's too narrow to function as a fire break. So I want to widen my trails so they double as fire breaks. And when wildfire does break out on this land, hopefully they'll come up to where the trail is and not jump the gap and continue towards my main house. So between the trail network and thinning of material in general, so there's less fuel on the land to burn, I'm also going to build and construct a fire trailer, and I think I'm going to start that in earnest in December. In December, I actually get 3 paydays instead of the usual 2, because there's 3 Fridays. I get paid every other Friday, but I don't know. Twice a year I get an extra paycheck, let's put it that way, from a bill perspective. So it gives me about $1,000 extra to devote to things, and I think in that case I'm going to buy a Harbor Freight utility trailer and a water pump and some fire hoses and start beginning the build of my fire trailer that will be pulled by my ATV. But until then, all I can do is clear brush and remove dead wood and fuel and things like that and push it away from the house. But I did that for about an hour yesterday morning, and it was a butt kicker. I don't think I'm going to do it today. I think today is Home Depot and carpentry pretty much. So one other thing I wanted to share is what animals and critter action we've had this week, because it's always changing. The birds are thinning out a little bit. I don't know if some of them have migrated away, but I'm putting out bird seed. I'm getting the usual birds, lots of quail, lots of little things. I don't know what all the little birds are, boobies and twits and sparrows, and I think I saw a painted bunting the other day though, but it didn't stick around long enough for me to get any footage of them, but it was very colorful, like a rainbow pop. That was kind of cool, and the first time I've seen one of those. But I saw a Gila monster yesterday. I'm pretty sure it's the same Gila monster that I put photos of about 2 weeks ago into one of my videos. He's about this long and orange and black, and that's a Gila monster, if you don't know, is a reptile, kind of like an iguana, but orange and black, and very solitary creatures. There's one who cruises around. Anyway, I saw him, he cruised by. I was looking out my kitchen window. That's usually how I spot them. And he cruised by, and he was just right here off the deck, and then he vanished. So he might be burrowed in somewhere nearby. The cows from the cattle that wander all around the property have been bellowing very loudly lately. I'm not sure if because someone's given birth or they're fighting or mad or what, but they've been like screaming. Not sure why. It's not because they're being attacked. And I'm looking out here because I see some cows in the distance about a half a mile away. Stanley sees them too. He's staring at them. But they've been bellowing very loudly. And 2 mornings ago, a little calf came right underneath the back window of my tiny house. The shades were drawn, so he didn't see me standing there looking at him. But as soon as I opened the shades and cracked the window and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" he bolted, and then I sent Stanley out there and he chased them all off. But they come right up to the house. They'll even bump the house if I'm not careful, because there's grass and weeds that they like to gnaw on. So Gila monsters, cows, no javelina. A neighbor told me, I was talking to a neighbor yesterday, someone who's been here for 40 years. He just lives about a quarter to a half mile down the road, that he caught on his trail cam 5 baby, or not all of them were babies, but gray foxes, 5 gray foxes. Some were babies and probably the 2 parents, so maybe 3 babies. So that's pretty cool. I've never seen a fox out here, but if they're a quarter of a mile away, they're clearly around. Good thing I don't have any chickens or pet birds or anything like that. So I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for foxes. But seen no javelina yet this year, but he's seen those too. They're around. Haven't seen any deer in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And nothing too scary or crazy. Mostly just the Gila monsters, birds and cows, Stanley, of course. And that's about it. So I just thought I'd give you an update on that. And last but not least, hopefully my nose is looking a little bit better. Still red, still flaking, but it's no longer painful and crusty and just inflamed. It's pretty much back to normal. It's been about 9 days since I stopped putting Flouracil on there. I'm still using some lotion that has salicylic acid in there to help with the exfoliation of all the skin that came off. I will have to do another few rounds of treatment, but that was all I could handle in this period of time. But when it gets winter and I'm hunkered down and not going out in public very much and care a little bit less about my vanity, I'm going to do another round of treatment because there's still more precancerous, sun damage up in here all over. But for the moment, it's feeling a little better, looking a little bit better. Another week or so, it should be totally back to normal. And yeah, good times. One other thing I just wanted to mention about what's going on with Bitcoin. I try not to make this a Bitcoin channel, but if you know me at all, if we're Facebook friends or Instagram friends, I frequently talk about Bitcoin. And I know most people who don't know about Bitcoin just hear tidbits on the news and they think, oh, it's a scam, it's a tulip bulb bubble, it's none of those things. It's actually the biggest invention, one of the most important inventions in humankind's history. And that's a bold statement. I'm not going to go into why. But having programmable money that's basically money on the internet that is immutable, can never be created, totally secure, and can eliminate middlemen from all transactions and take away the need to trust anybody, like a bank or Visa or MasterCard or a central bank or a business. It takes away the need to trust anybody. That is huge. The implications of that are massive. But I will say that Bitcoin is in the news a lot lately because the Security and Exchange Commissions have even though they've approved a futures Bitcoin ETF, meaning a derivative product that doesn't require anyone to hold underlying Bitcoin when they buy into that derivatives ETF, but they haven't approved a spot ETF, meaning an ETF in which if you invest in it, somebody has to go and buy the underlying Bitcoin and hold it in a digital wallet. And so that makes no sense. There's no reason you can justify leveraged futures ETFs without, a spot ETF. But they were sued by Grayscale Bitcoin Trust and they just won. Grayscale won, the SEC lost. And so while we don't have a spot Bitcoin ETF right now, the pundits are saying it could be weeks or just a couple of months away. And when there's a spot Bitcoin ETF, that means there's an on-ramp. There is a vehicle for every big pension fund, insurance companies, institutional money, family offices, sovereign wealth funds of the world. It gives them a way to just go onto their account, any brokerage account. You'd be able to find Bitcoin. I don't know what the symbol's going to be, what the ticker symbol's going to be. But imagine being able to go into Schwab or Fidelity or E-Trade or Robinhood and just buy Bitcoin by buying a ticker symbol and being able to hold it in your IRA or in any kind of, brokerage account just by buying into the ETF. You don't have to know digital wallets. You don't have to understand Bitcoin. You don't have to convert anything. Oh, hello, hummingbird. Bye. You just buy it and hold it like a stock. When that happens, that gives an on-ramp for big money. So we are in the final period. It's been a 13-year journey, but we are in the final period before the final domino in the whole mainstream adoption thing with Bitcoin falls. That's a big deal. That means from an investment perspective, now is about the last time anyone's going to be able to get Bitcoin while it's in the $20,000 range. And as of today, it's at about $26,000 per Bitcoin. So you can buy as little as 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. So if you got $10, you can invest in Bitcoin. And my point is, now is the time to do it before the spot ETF hits. Because while it may not instantly go up in price over the next year, you're going to see trillions of dollars flow into Bitcoin, and the price is just going to take off. It's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but what am I doing with my money? I'm continuing to buy $20, $50 worth of Bitcoin here and there to build my stack, because it is going to be the most valuable asset on the planet. And I'm giving you information to help you understand why you should buy it now and front run the big institutions, because after the big institutions come, the price is going to be insane. You're not going to be able to afford very much, and you won't be able to ride it up the upward trajectory and build any wealth from it. But you can do it if you take action now. Leave a comment, leave a question on that if you have them. I'm happy to answer questions on that. But we are in a very quiet period of time with Bitcoin before the ETFs get approved by the SEC, and there could be 5 or 6 of them get approved here in the next couple of months. It's going to be a big deal, and it is going to revolutionize money. And all fiat currencies, mark my words, all fiat currencies, including the US dollar, the Canadian dollar, Mexican peso, Japanese yen, the euro, they are all going to be replaced by Bitcoin. I know that sounds far-fetched, but there's reasons, mathematical and logical reasons for it, because Bitcoin is sound money and fiat currencies are not. And when people are given a choice, they're going to choose sound money. I'm choosing sound money, and more people every day are choosing sound money, because think about it. Why would you choose an unsound money that can be printed out of thin air and inflated away its value, when you have this other option that cannot be inflated away, cannot be created out of thin air by anybody ever again? There's only 21 million Bitcoin ever going to exist, being shared by 8 billion people in the world. That means each person in the world can only have a very small fraction of a Bitcoin, but it's enough to make the monetary system work, and it's enough to make a person wealthy if they get invested in it now. All good reasons to explore and learn more about Bitcoin. So let me know what your questions are. All right, guys, this is probably going to be difficult to explain. I'll do my best, and I'll try to make it brief, though. But you're starting to see structure here, wood, that represents the roof line of the future solar rack, plus the roof line of a future solar shed. So this area down here is the closet, the solar closet, that I also call a photon conversion chamber. As I swing around over to here, not sure how well this is going to show up on camera, but essentially I have one board that comes down, which is going to be the roof line of the closet. And then you can see this big old 2x10 above it. That's going to be the roof line of the solar rack itself. And the solar panels are going to be dropping down into, so there's going to be ledger boards on that big one. So I've got essentially 2 buildings that it's got to tie into, the closer workshop and then the further garage port. And so they are going to attach on a band that goes all the way across the top here. You can sort of see it. How's that? See how that ties in up there? That's going to be cut off. There's going to be a ledger board that comes all the way across between these two. And see how I have this breezeway, this passageway between the 2 buildings? Well, that's going to be spanned by a solar rack that sits up in here. But I'm going to have 3 solar racks that go that way and 4 down, like edge to edge. So it's going to be like 12 solar racks there. And then over where I'm standing right now, I'm going to have about 3 solar racks right over my head that come down. And by the way, this back wall, let me turn around. This is going to be the height of the back wall of my solar closet. It's only going to be about 3 feet high. So the roof is going to come down like this, and this is going to only be about 3 feet high, but that's enough space for me to put server rack batteries or floor or wall mount batteries up against this south wall right here. So essentially it's an 8x8 room with the sloped roof, and I'll put my inverters here on the side walls and all the wiring and everything. The server rack batteries will go down here. I'll have about $10,000 worth of batteries for it, if not more, over time. And then over top of the whole thing is going to be the solar rack, essentially sheltering the closet itself. And then I will panel in everything so wind can't come in and get up under the solar panels and lift them up and cause damage, right? It's all about wind avoidance. So that means using the same paneling, the same T111 type siding that I've got here, which is an OSB product. I'm going to use that to panel the whole thing in. So it's going to essentially look like a building, but really it's going to be a solar rack. And then the access to my solar closet is going to be through this doorway, which goes into my garage port. So to get into it and to get under all the solar panels, I'll have to go into my garage port, open this door, step into the solar closet that I'm standing in right now. That you can see the floor for here, and do my thing with the solar system. And yeah, I know it's kind of hard to explain, but when I go to Home Depot and get the lumber today and start building this out a little bit, I won't make a ton of progress, but hopefully over time you'll start to see the logic and it'll all come together. So it's a sort of big, complicated project. And like most build projects, building anything alone is a real challenge, but I'm going to do my darndest to film it on a tripod so everything is stable and not too, jerky and moving around, and give you a sense of what the build is like. I'm not going to go into so much detail that someone could reconstruct this, but it is an interesting solar rack project because most people do freestanding solar racks not attached to buildings. Most people make them out of metal and they use rails and clamps and everything to hold down the solar panels. But for personal reasons, I don't want to mess with metal. I like carpentry and woodworking. I like the stoutness and the permanency of solid wood, like 2x10s, like these. Well, this is a 2x6. The one behind it is a 2x10. But I just want to do it out of wood. And with the angles and the bridging of two sections of it and the paneling in and the way the solar racks are going to drop down into a grid of wood and be flush across the top, and the way I'm going to drain the rainwater off of the panels through grooves and chamfers and creating channels in the wood to give a path for the rain to follow, is different than I've seen anyone else do. I'm building something that I've not seen anywhere else in the world. Or people just will build like a lean-to, like a garage port or a building, and then just put solar panels right on the roof. But I'm kind of creating a sort of a building, two little buildings, two sheds out of solar panels and enclosing them in. And I've just never seen anyone take that approach. And I'm not going to have to use any hardware, and nothing's going to even hold the solar panels in other than their own weight. And I'll be banking on the fact that wind won't be able to get under them and lift them out, that the weight of the panels is enough to keep them down seated in the grid that is the roof of the solar panel rack. And the whole thing is going to end up giving me storage, because the second section out here beside my workshop, that's going to give me essentially like a 12x12 room. And I'm not sure what I'm going to use it for. I can either use it for ATV or motorcycle storage if I put a wide door on it so I can just roll right in and have shelter for my motorcycle or ATV. Careful, Stanley. Or I can use it to shelter my fire trailer. That's a big consideration as well. So when I build out that fire trailer, I need a place to park it out of the rain. I'm probably going to park it under this big structure. There might also be room for 3 or 4 IBC totes. And 3 IBC totes would give me 1,000 more gallons of rainwater storage. And that's kind of a big deal, to have another 1,000 gallons, because my cisterns over there give me 5,200 gallons, but I'd like to have another 1,000 gallons, and I can get that by spending about $500 on 3 used IBC totes. And that could hide under here, and the rainwater that comes off of the solar panels could be what fills the IBC tote. So it could be a not only a solar panel rack, but it can also be a self-contained rainwater catchment system. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting project. So I'm going to put on appropriate clothing and gear up, grab my dog, and we're going to Home Depot. One other thing to point out real fast is, I don't know if you can see it, but this orange paint on the ground, that's where the holes are going to be to form the footers that secures this southernmost short wall, 3-foot high wall of the solar rack. So I've already started to mark out with marking paint where I'm going to have to dig holes, about 4 of them. Good thing I have a jackhammer, because that's some very rocky soil. One other thing I just wanted to point out, if you're wondering about this whole setup, that's just so I can experiment with the roof line. I needed to see what length this 2x10 needs to be to get a 30-degree angle, because I decided 30 degrees is the right angle. But I needed a method to attach this 2x10 to mark it, to know how much length I need to drop 4 solar panels in here and still have enough height and all that. So by doing it this way temporarily, I could move things around and then just reclamp them. But this is essentially what the roof line is going to look like. So that's, I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I was trying to accomplish here, is just figure out what the roof line needs to be. And now I know. So now I know where the back wall needs to be. I know the slope. I know the height. I've got it all marked so I can make my measurements and my cuts. And yeah, that's what all this temporary stuff is for. All right, one last thing I wanted to share is that I cleared out this area. Margot, my cargo trailer right here, had been sitting right here closer in this spot right in here, but I hooked it up to my truck. I moved it out a little bit. I got rid of a bunch of scrap, so mostly what I have left here is just metal, which is going to become, I'm going to use it as the roofing for the photon conversion chamber. And I've cleared this area out right here because this building, which is the back side of my garage port, I'm also going to bring solar racks eventually off of this whole wall right here. So this entire area filled in is going to be 6 or 8 more solar panels, which is probably going to be dedicated, as I was talking about earlier, for the air conditioning systems. I'm probably going to have 2 mini splits on my main house, and I think these panels in a separate battery array are going to be dedicated for nothing but the air conditioners for the main house. But that's a future project. So basically I have room to expand and add another 8, 10, 12 panels by building off of this back side of the garage port. And this is where my prototype rack is going to go, which will eventually become a permanent solar panel rack. But yeah, so I opened up this area, cleared it out, and I did some landscaping over here to create a little bit more of a fire break. So I didn't have so much vegetation kind of right up to my gravel line where I consider my property to sort of start, or the housing area to start. All right, that's enough jabbering. Let's get to Home Depot. You know, I also bought 400 pounds of concrete, 420 pounds of concrete. Got to unload that too. Forgot all about it, but I got to keep it out of the rain because I'm not ready to use it yet. So, not sure where I'm going to put it. Maybe in the main house. Maybe in there. Shoot. And here I thought I was done, but nope. Alright guys, I had to take a quick intermission to have some lunch, which was bacon and cheddar cheese and nuts. Pecans, walnuts, and almonds. And make some more coffee. So I decided to punt on the cement. Don't need to unload it, too much work. I just left it in the back of my truck, closed up the camper top, backed the whole thing into the garage port, and calling that good for now. It's pretty humid today and the clouds are building. It could rain at any point. So obviously, and I've got a lot of spots sort of that leak in the garage port. So I didn't want potential leaks drip dropping on the bags of cement and starting to harden the concrete. I was gonna paint the OSB that's about to be the floor. I designed that whole space, by the way, so everything is in 8-foot multiples so that I can use 2 4x8 sheets for, you know, the floor and the ceiling and each wall. Everything is basically 2 panels. If I insulate the floor with sheet foam, you know, that's 2 panels of sheet foam, etc. So I wanted it to be exactly 8x8. So there's some method to my madness. I've learned over time after making many projects with irregular dimensions that making things in multiples of 4x8 sheets, you know, your stud spacing on 16-inch centers, etc., floor joist spacing on 16 or 24-inch centers, you know, that kind of, it does save you time and effort and expense and frustration. So that's what I'm doing. So the 2 sheets of OSB that's tongue and groove that I bought today at Home Depot are going to be painted blue, but the sun is pretty darn intense for me to do it outside. So I'm either going to bring those inside and put them up on sawhorses and do it in the shade with some music going and, you know, make it an event, little dance party as I'm painting, you know. I might do that, or I might just wait till the sun is at about 6 p.m. tonight and it's partially shaded and will be much cooler. I'm not sure about that, which means I need to decide and probably switch gears and work on a different project. And I think a mosquito got me. I'm scratching the crap out of my shins. Ooh, it's itchy. I think a mosquito got me in a couple places. Darn them varmints. Flies. Anyway, so I paused for lunch and now I got to get back to work. I just got to figure out what's the most appropriate project and see what I feel like doing. Something in the shade, but man, the landscape work and moving gravel and all that, I still have a bunch of that to do. It's super rewarding. Like visually you see that you accomplish something and it can make my life smoother and easier, you know, if I'm making it easier to walk around, that kind of thing. So that, but it's back-breaking and exhausting, and once I do some of that, I usually don't have very much gas left in the tank physically here in this manly structure. So yeah. But maybe I'll do some of that. I'm just not sure. We'll see. Stay tuned. So it's just too hot outside to paint the OSB, so I've decided to make a little dance party in the workshop. Right there. I think it's kind of trashed in this workshop. That's what I wanted to show you. But if I think, hi Stanley. But I think if I clear off this table, just put the OSB sheets there. It's a little challenging though to even get them in here because the angle on this door and how it comes out to this, comes out to this passageway is a challenge. And then into this breezeway. And the OSB sheets are out there where it's ungodly freaking bright. So I got to bring them down this passageway and in this door and onto this table. So basically I'm going to spend, my point is, I'm going to get some music, open it up, get some airflow, maybe turn on a fan, get some music going, clean off this table, clean up some of the chaos and the wood that's all over the floor. This is just an empty workshop space at this point with no power. So I got extension cords snaking in and yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but it's fine. It's working for now. It is shelter and I'm grateful to be in the shade. So I'm gonna get busy cleaning up. Oh, and I have to open up a path and move the scaffold because I have to, at my age, let's put it this way, to pick up a sheet of OSB, you know, it's especially a 3/4 inch one, that shit is heavy and awkward and coming down a passageway. So, and I'm not as strong as I used to be, even though I'm still moving some weights around, but aging, you know. So anyway, I can still do it. I just have to think through and make sure my path is clear and make sure there's nothing underfoot and maybe grab, you know, a handle type thing to lift some sheet goods. And I got to go slow and be very careful about my posture. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to lose weight, because I need my physicality. I need to be flexible. I need to be strong. Just being a typical middle-aged guy with a huge gut doesn't work for me. So I want it to be reasonable. It's still there, but it's getting smaller. Anyway, I'm not as strong as I used to be, so I just have to plan out my route. And make sure that I have space so that I can just do it right and do it safe and do it at my own pace. And so I got to clear a path, and the scaffold's in my way. What do you do? All right, boys and girls, it's time to make these things blue. Got paint, brush, 2 fans going on me. I got speakers in here. I can't play the music on in the video or I'll get copyright strikes. But I got my latex gloves, got the doors open. Just gonna have a little paint dance party and see if I can't make. I got 1 sheet of OSB. I'll bring in the second one, obviously, after I get this one at least one side blue, you know. Anyway, that's my, it's gonna be my next hours in the heat, because yeah, dang, it's humid. Whew, not much breeze. I'm glad I have 2 fans in here. All right, I got one side of 1 sheet of OSB, this crazy greenish blue. It's kind of a nice color, but it's a little too green to match the roof like I originally thought. At least this can, they're all slightly different. I set up another set of sawhorses. I'm gonna bring in another sheet, do another side, and then take a break for an hour because it's pretty hot, and then come back out, flip them over, do the second side. And then in theory, after I do some work on the floor joists out there to put braces on them, then I can put the floor down. But you know, one step at a time. It's funny, I was acting like I was having a dance party in here, but I don't know. I was listening to old school country and Unchained Melody just now. It's a great song. I like a wide variety of music. And these days, old school country from the 60s and 70s, that's my kind of easy listening at this point. So that's what I've been enjoying in here. Sweating though. Woo, woo. And just like that, in addition to 1 piece of OSB, we got another one laid out here. All right, time to do the dirty. All right, dear reader, if you're wondering why I need 2 greenish bluish painted OSB floor panels, it is true that that solar closet is going to be covered. It's going to have a roof. It's going to have 3 normal walls with 1 exoskeleton back wall, meaning I'm only sheathing the interior side of it. The framing will be on the outside, but I don't think at this moment, I got about an hour to decide, but I don't think I'm insulating the floor, and it will be the downside of the subfloor, which is going to be the only floor. I'm not doing anything on top of that. There's really no need to, at least I don't think so. The bottom side will be exposed to the dirt that'll be about 12 inches away. There will be some moisture in there, and bottom line, I've learned in the desert, paint everything, especially if it's facing the elements. It'll probably double the lifespan of anything. Some very wise people have advised me in that regard. All right, all right. I got all 4 sides painted. See, still shiny, still wet. That was about an hour and a half total between painting, taking a break, having a little snack, yogurt, nuts, and coming back out here to paint. Now it's time to actually go out there and deal with tightening down the floor joists that are just tacked in place. Putting in joist hangers, which is not a great task, at least not in the sun. Mostly because it's back breaking, a lot of hunching over, which kind of kills my back, especially now that I just painted, which also because of the table height is some hunching over. So I'm feeling it right now in my mid back. So hunching over to do all those little screws going into the joist hangers, but it needs to be done before I put this floor down. So that is the next step. So I got to find a way to get happy with that task and get on it. Well, you remember what I was saying about building everything in multiples of 8? Well, there's a flaw with that theory that I keep forgetting about. When working with tongue and groove flooring, they don't make them wide enough. So I'm going to have to put this in and fit in an extra 3rd piece. Gonna have to fit in that last piece, get it cut, take it out, paint it, put it back down, fasten it. That's the plan. Ping, top line. All right, guys, so I've cut a new section of OSB flooring about yay wide, about 14 inches, and fitted in and painted it. So, and I've tacked down the 2 pieces that are out there already. So I'm gonna finish up the subfloor a little bit later, but I've been sweating all day. I looked, it's 88, pretty humid. I'm at a good stopping point, and I need to let paint dry a little bit. So I'm just gonna let the sun get a little bit lower. It's like 4:30 now, wait till about 6. Relax, maybe get horizontal for a little while, because I've been cooking for a lot of hours, in addition to unloading all the lumber and, you know, all that other stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna let paint dry, take a break, go inside, come out later, put down the floor, and then, believe it or not, I think I can start framing out the little stub wall that's only gonna be 3 foot high, the southern wall that's where my server rack batteries are gonna live. So, I don't know. Anyway, let's quit rolling and see what happens next. All right, boys and girls, we got us a floor. Tacked down, barely a floor, but it's a floor. It'll work. Not loving that I had to do 3 pieces to make it all work, but you know, what do you do? This is gonna be just a little 3 foot high wall right in here. But at least I got this on. Brought in the extra piece, painted it, drilled it down, ran some chalk lines so I could make sure I hit the floor joists, got the whole thing down, and then touched up everywhere there was a screw head. I painted it. So that just needs to dry overnight, and then I can start framing in the south wall. So I think I'm going to end the video there. Whoops. I think I'm going to end the video there and do part 2. I've got 2 more days off, Sunday and Monday, and I'm going to keep going on this project, but I think that's going to be a 4-day weekend video, part 2. So I'm wrapping up part 1. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and all that, and make sure you go click the link below to subscribe to my other YouTube channel, because I got a few more videos ready to go on that. It's called You Sure Talk a Lot, and it's true. I do. By the way, I just bloodied up my hand, got blood all over the floor, and definitely lots of sweat and some tears. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears physically in that structure now. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye. You know, while Stanley's eating, one other thing I would like to share is how I've lost so much weight. This is now the start of September. On April 1st, I changed my diet. So we got May, June, July, August, September, 5 months. For 5 months, I've cut out almost all processed foods, at least the worst of the worst. I've cut out pretty much carbs completely and anything with sugar added into it. So my diet now is pretty much down to, it's kind of a carnivore diet. I do a lot of bacon and sausage and eggs. Breakfast is my main meal of the day, and I just graze and snack for the rest of the day. I'm not doing dinners unless I didn't do a real breakfast, and then dinner will be my main meal of the day. But I'm compressing, so I guess there's 3 main things. I've compressed the hours in which I'm willing to eat, which creates intermittent fasting overnight. I've switched to a primarily carnivore keto diet, so lots of fat and protein and very little carbs. And I've gotten rid of almost all sugars. So I'm eating, like I said, meat, chicken. The one sort of carb I allow myself is tortillas, but they're keto-friendly tortillas. So I'm like having like 2 or 3 street tacos maybe for my breakfast or for the dinner. Not very much food. Lots of cheese, lots of nuts, and kombucha and coffee for my beverage. So in doing that for 5 months, by just not buying grains, I'm not buying, the cookies and the danishes and all that crap that I absolutely love. I've given that up. And I've given up store-bought creamer. So I'm using actual half and half in dairy products and unsweetened almond milk to put in my coffee. But I've given up the typical high sugar, high fructose corn syrup creams that I used to put in my coffee. And that's probably, 1,000 calories down just with that alone. So I've gone from a 39-inch waist to a 34 now. So my battery died right in the middle of that. So I've gone from a 39 to a 34 on my waist. My face is significantly thinner. I do look older. Everyone's telling me I look pretty gaunt, but what do? I want it gone. The weight gone. And I've gone from XL t-shirts. I had to buy new shirts that are now size large. So that's a big deal. I haven't been weighing myself, so I don't know how much my weight is down. I still have, a good 20 pounds more to go. But most importantly, I think the amount of fat on my liver and my organs and my heart and internally is down significantly, which is good. But I'd like to lose about 20 more pounds, so I'm going to keep it up. We got 5 months down. If I do it for 7 more months and say 1 year of no processed foods, only kind of whole foods and no sugars, and following this sort of keto intermittent fasting plan, I could be down another 20 pounds and be actually ripped and actually have abs. So we'll see. Oh, and by the way, I'm not doing my 10K run. I just haven't been running. The weather hasn't been cool enough for me to do it, and it's not been the motivating tool that I thought it was. So I'm just going to eat the $40 entry fee for the race. I'm just going to have to eat that. And I think I'm just not going to go because it's next weekend and I'm not ready. I could go, I could do it. I mean, running a 10K sort of cold without doing much training is possible, but is there any real benefit? Not really. It was an attempt at motivation and it kind of failed. So what do you do?